question of, you know, what does it mean to strike and what are the different ways in which we can strike. Undoubtedly, we have to go beyond the concept of the strike as it was defined by the labor movement. And so we, women, are found in many, many, many different situations. And so it's not possible, to simply think of a strike, a women's strike, only in terms of stopping work. Not to mention that in some cases, for instance, in the case of reproductive work, it's extremely difficult to stop it. For example, in the case of women who are responsible for people who depend on them for their life. At the same time, we can find other ways of striking. And striking, therefore, has to mean not only interrupting certain activity, and particularly work activity, but it means engaging in activity that have a transformative element, that in a way take us beyond, business as usual, take us beyond, our everyday life, and contain within themselves, the other possibilities. So when I think of the strike, I think not only walking out, of particular jobs and joining women in the square, joining women for a march or for a dance, but I'm thinking of teachings, for example, in places, in schools, where teachers may not be able, for example, to walk out, but they can reorganize the whole day, as a great teaching, and talking to students, talking to colleagues, and talking to people in the community. So we can think, for example, also of women organizing assemblies, gathering in the community, again, to deal also with the problems that the community is facing. I think we also have to be very flexible and creative, because the decision has to in what form we carry on the strike depends greatly on the context. I imagine, for instance, in places where there are, particular struggles already taking place. Think, for example, of struggles against the police, against police brutality. Think of struggle against, the prison, or the struggle against, particular forms of any kind of forms of abuses and so forth. Then, in that case, the strike can be connected, with the struggle itself. So we have to think of a multiplicity of activity and a multiplicity of places, and go beyond the traditional model. So the important thing is to be the transformative character of what we do. The important thing is that what we do has to be an activity that connects us to other women, that has a collective character, and an activity that puts on the table, right, the world that we're fighting against, the social relation we are fighting against, and the kind of society we want to create. I want to add that last year, in many places, not only in the United States, one recommendation for the strike was that women should not buy things, right? So not only don't do certain type of work, but also that women should not go out and buy things. And I want to say that I like to broaden that recommendation, right? I like to broaden it. I like to rephrase it in the following way, which is, on that day, we should not engage in any activity that can prevent other women from participating, from going to the street, going to the marches, and from participating in any way, to the strike, right? So it's not only don't buy in an anti-consumistic perspective, as important as that may be, but it's more don't buy, but also don't engage in any work that will pin down another woman, you know, to the stuff, the work that she's normally doing. And of course, connected with it is that we have to demand that men pick up the housework, the men pick up the child care, the men pick up the work that we normally do in the home. And you know, this was, for example, very, very important in the Icelandic strike of 1975, where women were able to stay out all day because, in fact, they were able to have a lot of support from the men, who in many cases basically, you know, replaced them with child care, elder care, and so forth. This would be my recommendation for that day.